Well, hello everybody. Welcome to Sonictalk, episode 802. Yes, of course, we will be talking about a TX802 at some point. How can we not? In fact, we're entering very fertile ground for episode numbers. 808's not too far away. I said that, and then I thought, actually, there's an 816, I suppose. There's a few, anyway. But this is a music technology podcast. We talk about all things to do with synthesizers, drum machines, software, music production, recording, playing live, streaming, all the stuff that kind of surrounds the ecosystem of making, creating and consuming music to some degrees. Anyway, I want to say thank you very much to our friends over at our sponsors. Obviously, we've got iZotope and Native Instruments. We'll be hearing from them a little bit later. I also want to say thanks to everybody in the chat. It's very nice to see you all there. We've got a whole bunch of people. Billy Olding, Billy Bart Cody, Andrew Brooks, Jumpstar, Tim Dale. Nice to see Tim. I saw you briefly at Super Booth. Lovely to see you, Half God, Half Beast. Grace Griffin as well. Failed Muso. You're on the show. What are you doing in there? Paul, James Glue, Paul Holmes, Solid BPM. Yes, actually, it seems like quite a decent number. Must be because of the calibre of our guests. But before I introduce you to them, I'm going to just run a little bit of a plug for our Patreon because it's an important message. Have you considered joining us on Patreon? I have some great value offers for you. $3 a month will get you all of our non-show video posted unmonetized without ads to Patreon. You also get access to our Discord server, which has started to build up quite a nice community there, join a lot of people. You also get access to some stuff preview early. In fact, here's an ad-free version of 5 Minutes with Waldorf M ad-free. But if you join at the 6th month, you get additional benefits. Not only will you get exclusive videos, you also get access to 360 videos. There are sample instruments and packs, exclusive sound downloads. Super Booth Day 1, there's a 360 video there, a whole bunch of things besides. And if you do join us before the end of the show, as I say, your name will appear in credits at the end of the show. In fact, I want to welcome two new members from last week, Andreas Dale Argard and Jag. Thank you very much for joining us. Back to the show. Yes, a new thing. I'm going to name check people as well as they join. I think it's fair, but also don't forget if you do join me before the end of the show, your name will appear in credits and remain there as long as you're continuing to subscribe. So thank you very much for joining us. Anyway, let's get on to our guests. Before I do that, I'm just going to, what's coming up? Oh, yeah, don't forget, we've got the Plogue competition. I think if I press that should probably post. Yeah, win stuff, bit.ly/Sonic Plogue 24. We've got the ChipSynth bundle and a couple of plugins for runners-up. It doesn't look like the links are going into the chat this week. I don't know why. Hey, I'm sorry about that. But anyway, perhaps Waggo will be able to post that in. So we do thank them for their support as well. Right, let's get on to guests. That's all the housekeeping stuff done. We'll start over there. We've got Robbie Puricelli, who I haven't seen, for 2 weeks. Failed Muso or
the airport.
ProSynth Network. Yes, it was at the airport, in fact, where somebody was posting on the video, the walkabout video that we posted, said, wow, I'd love to meet Robbie, and you didn't believe me, and it was a totally unironic post. It was, and so lovely to see you.
Drunk, but no, it was lovely to meet you and the rest of the gang and everybody. I mean, it's just number one on my list of favourite things to do at Super Booth is meet the people. It's just so many lovely people there. It was a great week in Berlin.
Yeah, well, I can see that you've also got some fruits from Berlin. Did you bring the Polybrute 12 back with you, or did they kindly ship that? No, imagine.
Yeah, that was,
carry on.
It was shipped. It was shipped before Super Booth. So it was. Yeah, that would have been a nightmare on Ryanair trying to get that one in the hold. So
can you imagine? It cost more than the flight for the entire team.
Yeah, tell me that. Yeah. Yes, no, it's a lovely thing, and I'm sort of it's because it's very, very similar to the Polybrute 6, but with sort of two major differences. Getting used to it is pretty simple because everything is exactly in the same place almost. It's just experiencing that whole expression level increase.
Yeah, it's quite a big jump in expressivity. They've gone for the sort of Osmo style. You can touch a key and push, so you get kind of effectively control and trigger from the lightest of touches, which I think is going to make a huge difference.
So it kind of goes like, you can do that, or you can go, so you get that kind of plucky if you hit it.
Yeah, there's release speed, there's all sorts of stuff they can do with it. Yeah, very really impressive. Cool. Well, lovely to have you, Robbie. Yeah, always welcome. And we have Mr. Yoad Nevo, who's there at Nevo Sound, where he's manning the controls of his giant Nevo, I suppose. Have you thought about having it relabeled to say Nevo rather than just Neve? But perhaps that's being a bit flippant.
I once changed it on a Neve VR at what was that studio in Primrose Hill? I forget. They had on the side there was a Neve sign, and I just changed the E to an O.
Nice.
With a pencil. But speaking of stuff, bringing back stuff from Berlin, I was once in Berlin and I saw this. Till this day, I'm not sure what the name of the instrument, but it's kind of like a koto instrument, but from Korea. So it's bigger. It's long. It's massive. It's like 2 meters or something like that. It's massive, and I had to buy it, and I got it with a soft case, basically nothing, not padded at all. And I just said, it was my last day, and I just got it and took it on the plane, put it in the hold, and hoped for the best. And it wasn't damaged. It was fine. It looked. I was looking like one of those people who are going to ski or something like that, with kind of weird sports gear or something like that.
Outsized luggage, yeah.
Yeah, and it's fine, and I still have it. It sounds amazing. But yeah, I couldn't come to Superbooth this year, and I was invited to the Bitwig 10-year anniversary party, and I couldn't go, so I'm a bit gutted about that. But I was too busy here doing other stuff.
Next time.
So next time, yeah.
Yeah, well, hopefully there will be more next times. It's such a kind of, it's really established itself in the calendar. And we do bang on about it. And I think the reason that we do is because it's such a fun thing it's not like work. I mean, even though it is for many of us, it's not like work. It's kind of hanging out with a lot of fun people doing fun things. Working is part of it, but it's not the sort of hard corporate sell that you get elsewhere. I mean, I think so it's a very different thing. Perhaps we'll get a couple of picks from people because we had a show last week where people were talking about it, so there may be some other stuff. But let's get on to our final guest, Paulie Bow, Magical Synth Adventure. How on earth are you?
I am quite excited this week because I had something turn up, not my usual late night drunken eBay bidding on devices, but something truly, truly exciting turned up.
Oh, okay.
And quite heavy. It is a load of copies
your CDs
of my
your new CD. Oh, fantastic.
So essentially, here's one of them. Hang on, there it is.
I love the is that a Ferrari in the swimming pool? I think that's a great shot.
I can't. Someone's told me what car it is, but I completely forgot. But yeah, the CD's in there. It's all looking really nice with the artwork and stuff like that. So I'm going to be releasing it at the big Amiga Expo called Kickstart at the end of June. But if you want a copy and you're not going to that event because you're not a computer nerd, in a very specific niche computer nerd, then please get in touch by Facebook, YouTube, whatever. I don't know if this first batch will sell out, but I'm planning to do a second batch, and I need to know kind of numbers of anyone who wants a copy, so there we go.
Excellent. That sounds like a great idea.
Very happy, and it's it's a real thing. I can go to a place. I just researched card machines today, and I went to a website called Square Up, and for 19 quid, I got myself a card reader, and they'll take about 1% of every sale.
Yeah, no, that stuff is really... Yeah.
And I
that's
thought
better than a record
really
label.
Hard. Yeah, it's much better than... It might be better than... there's no forwarding of money that you have to pay back, like with a record label, with a guy with a cigar going, "Stick with me, kid, I'll make you rich," no nefarious types. So I'll see how many I sell, and we'll go from there. And it's real, and the internet and AI and none of this modern gumph can touch me.
Physical,
'cause I've got
physical
real
product.
CDs. It's a physical thing, and it was quite thrilling getting them. So I'm gonna do it more in the future, I think. I will release on Bandcamp and the usual places as well for people who don't have CD players.
Glad to
there
hear
we go. That's enough of my plug-in.
No, fair enough. I mean, that's totally fair enough. I mean, goodness knows nobody gets anything else out of the experience as a free participant. So plug away. Oh, I've just looked up. It's a Gaia Guillaume or a what's it also called? Yeah, it's like it's similar to the Japanese koto, but I see what you mean. It's big. In fact, I'm pretty sure because I remember I worked on the Corgis. Everybody's Got to Learn Sometime remix. So I was at their studio a bunch of times, and they've got or had one of those, and it wasn't a koto, it was really big, and I think it was looking at the pictures, it looks a lot like it's like a plucked zither, but it's the same sort of thing, the Gaia Guillaume. And also I know for a fact that they sampled that very thing for the
no way.
The hook. I believe so. That's the story I was told. I mean, they may have lied to me.
It sounds a bit more metallic on the record than the one I have. The one I have sounds very warm and kind of, because the strings are so long. I think they're longer than piano strings. It's like super, super long, and it sounds so lush. I love the sound of it.
Yeah, well,
but maybe there are different types or different strings, or
yeah, maybe. I mean, or it could have just been they could have been lying to me. I mean, it was one of my first ever jobs.
It could have been a DX7 with a
it's much more likely it was a DX7.
Or a TX802.
Or that is a quality link there, Robbie. I think I might even take advantage of that while I have it. We'll just have a quick. I think actually that's a good point. I might have to do a bit of button pressing because it's so far down the list. Let's see what happens if I do that. Let's see. Nothing. Excellent. Oh, I got the video, haven't I? So it's oh goodness, what was it? Video what?
Well,
hold on. I'm really everything's going completely wrong because I haven't thought about it. Where is it? There we go. TX802 is the flashback store. 64 voice. This is so here's a bit of TX802 for those of you who need refreshing, which was an 8-part it was an 8-part, I think 16 voice, 2 voices per part.
DX2.
Oh, it's quite nice actually. I'm pretty sure I remember using the 802 when I was doing sessions at a similar time. It was probably my first ever session using the 802. So these are from LFO. What were they from? I think I put it up somewhere, didn't I?
LFO.store.
LFO.store. There we go. That's not it. I've completely lost. LFO.store. That's it. So as well as all the the lately based and that, I think right. So anyway, this I suppose this is an homage to the to the fact that it's episode 802 and why ever not. I'm going to come to you first, Robbie. 6 operator, right? From what I remember,
yes.
Basically DX7 Mark II in a box, but with multi-timbrality.
Yeah,
I guess.
So the Mark II DX7 was bi-timbral. The 802 was 8-part multi-timbral, but it shared that multi-timbrality across 16 voices. So unlike the TX816, which kind of preceded it, which had 128 notes of polyphony and 8-part multi-timbrality, and each voice card used 16 notes, so you could do a full-on thing. With the 802, whilst it had slightly better clarity and stuff, it kind of lost out a little bit on the polyphony if you started to want to use lots of different voices. But you could layer things really nicely on there. There's one just over there. It's not connected at the moment, but it is a nice thing. It is a nice thing indeed.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I remember it being, because it was multi-timbrality back then was quite unusual. I mean, it was not a common thing, and having multiple outputs as well. 802s, I mean, and you could feed a cartridge into it, so you could. It was a great thing. I had a TX7, which was a noisy old thing, but it meant I could run the many thousands. I mean, I was like that person who collects baseball cards, or it's just hordes. I've got if DX7 patches had been a physical thing, I would have needed a massive shed to keep them in, and a couple of garages. Fortunately, they weren't. They all fit.
Maybe we can exchange presets one day, because I
really?
I have tens of thousands as well.
Wow, how do you search them? Have you meta tagged them all, Yoad, so that you can recall them at a moment's notice?
No, not really.
There are a couple of websites out there.
The thing is that the TX7, it's the kind of
the
diagonal one, the
very noisy
wedge one, because it has the same. It's basically a DX7, the original one, whereas the 802 is the DX7 Mark II, which had maybe like 12-bit as opposed to 10-bit converters or something like that. But it didn't have that noise, because the DX7, although it had like the most amazing, in a cheesy way, preset 15, which is the notorious slap bass. But I mean, it had that metallic ring to it, to the attack, and also like a release kind of when you lift,
I remember.
So it was quite nasty. And the TX7 was the same. The 802, by the way, the 816, which is what Robbie mentioned, the 8 modules, it's also DX7, and it had balanced outputs. So each one of them had an XLR, albeit mono, but it had, which I found, it's like the most ridiculous thing to have, because it's so noisy that the least of your concerns would be the jack, kind of the residual noise come out of the jack, because that thing was like a factory of noise.
That's a good.
But I think that when we come to episode 816, it will be, because the 816 is an amazing instrument. It's a classic. It's a classic. A friend of mine.
Well, it's Cupid and Psyche, isn't it? It's that. I'm trying to remember the name of the chap. We had him on the show. Robbie, you'll probably remember.
Yeah, Dave Gamson. Yeah.
Dave Gamson.
I'm still in negotiations into shipping Dave's 816 here. He's agreed that I can have that. So, but it's in LA, and it's a big, heavy thing. So, and I've already got one. So, do I really? Yeah, but it's the Scritty 816. I've got to have it.
I love that.
I'm not sure. Did it ever have kind of a voice spillover, so you could actually use the 128 voices? I don't think so. I think you could. Did it built in? I didn't know that.
So each card on the back had a separate MIDI import, which you could then connect up. The QX1 was designed to run it, so it had 8 individual MIDI outs, and you could connect those to the MIDI ins on the back. But it was also a unified MIDI import on the front, which could address all 8 cards at the same time. So you could get 128 notes of polyphony. And if you say, for example, and this is some people's worst nightmare, if you loaded up 8 slightly different DX7 electric pianos on each of the modules and then played it back, it was the most mind-blowing electric piano you've ever heard. There's a great video on YouTube of a guy that sort of adds them in.
As well as strings, those marcato strings were like so big. I think it's on the Madonna. What's that song with those? Never mind. Amazing.
Nice.
Gear.
802. I don't know, Paulie. Have you got any TXs in your racks?
Oh yes. Well, actually, I've got a Mark I DX7, which I think I'm the second owner of. You know, sometimes you get a car and it had one little old lady owner with a Bible in the glove box kind of thing. Yep. Well, I have the synth equivalent. I've got a DX7 Mark I that a guy bought in 1983 with this weird, almost tank brown carry case. Really weird metal carry case. He played it a few times and put it in his loft for years and years and years, and then I got it. So I've got a really nice DX7 MK1, and then I've never played with the 802 or the Mark II series, because I go straight to a TG77, which is obviously the sequel to the TX802, which is one of my favourite synths, because it has
amazing machine.
Yeah, it's got most of the good points of the TX802. You know, multi-timbrality, and 6 operators. Well, 7 if you use the PCM operators. And also it's got some built-in effects. But I do notice the kind of path of ingenuity and progress that got us to that TG77 in the 802, from the rather unwieldy 816, where it was essentially eight separate machines with a common part, to a much more integrated display 802.
It was still a nightmare
really
to use, from what I remember. Yeah.
Two
No,
two LED displays, not great.
I've got a DMP11 from around the same time, which is
mixer.
A similar display. So yes,
is that the mixer?
So yeah, I think it was a kind of companion almost for the 802. I think in that it had like all different things in the back, and it was a mixer with an SPX effects engine in.
Yeah,
and
gosh, I remember.
That is not that easy to use. So I think the 802 is probably going to not be easy.
Well,
I'd be all right, I'd be fine.
Yamaha started from a very low bar of usability, and I think they're improving somewhat. But there are still somewhat there is still a certain amount of ambiguity and complexity to their operating systems. But they had a long way to travel, to be fair. So, no, I'm joking. We did we shot a great video with Dom Sigalas at Super Booth, where he went into the Moncharge M.
Yes,
the
great demonstrator he is.
He's really good demonstrator. Yeah, superb
Tell you
stuff.
what,
Yeah, I think
your competition. Sorry,
our competition,
your competition,
the
Plogue stuff. So the OPS 7 that's contained in that pack, in my very humble opinion, is the best software version of the DX7 engine out there. Bar none.
Yeah, I think we had I forget the name of the chap who reviewed it for us, and I know it was very, very highly thought of. So yeah, fair play. But presumably must load patches, which is fine, because you can do it with DexEd as well and all of that stuff. I'm just going to interject. Sorry, go Paulie, quickly, and then if you do
just very quickly, I've been using DexEd lately. It's a lot of fun, and I've been importing patches into the drum log, which has something called FM64, which is a 6-operator synth inside the drum log, 4-voice poly. And you can load the patches in and tweak a load of stuff, and even replace the waveforms with all of the TX801Z Psi77 waveforms. So that's really fun, that is. If you've got a drum log, check out FM64, because you basically get a free 6-operator FM synth, which is cool. It's not a bad deal.
Not a bad deal. Can't be all that much harder to use than the original either, because you've got a bit more control. Right, I'm just going to bring in a word from our friends over at iZotope.
Reintroducing Trash, your favorite creative distortion plugin from iZotope. Break, distort, and mangle your tracks with an endless assortment of chaotic combinations. Transform your sound in ways you never imagined. Take your tracks to new, distorted dimensions with the Trash module. Twist things even further and send your audio into another space with the Convolve module. Add energy and depth to your sound with the new envelope follower. Say goodbye to writer's block and distort without limits. iZotope Trash. Distortion redefined.
And of course, you can save 10% by using the code Sonic10 at checkout. We very much appreciate their support of the continued support of the show. Much appreciated. I think the summer of iZotope is coming up soon, so I'm told there's more video. It's going to be a different ad next week, I suppose, is the long and short of it. But we do appreciate their support. Very much appreciated. Okay, gosh, there's so much stuff to talk about. It's hard to know. Well, I say there's so much stuff. I mean, we've just spent quite a lot of time talking about the TX, which is a very worthy topic, and we've all got a lot to say on it, which is absolutely great. So I suppose maybe the thing that I would come to, because you didn't get the opportunity, I just wondered if there were any quick highlights from Superbooth from any of you. I know, Paulie, you wrote a great article, which was the sort of weird stuff of Superbooth, and I just wondered whether you had any moments you just wanted to briefly mention. So while we have you,
I love the community vibe of it. Basically, what's happened in previous years is I've watched the Sonicstate coverage of various releases, manufacturers releasing stuff. I always watch the UDO video, for instance, to see what, Super 6 and stuff like that, and the new Super 8. But I've never really immersed myself in the actual the kind of spectacle and community vibe of Superbooth, and I think because I know I'm going next year, I did that a bit more this year. So yeah, I really enjoyed your video of when you were walking into the place.
Oh, the walkabout.
The
360. Yes, yeah.
It gave me a lovely kind of vibe of kind of how beautiful and sunny and nice it is, which is something you don't get when you're just watching gear videos, All you get with gear videos is you walking up to someone and talking about a bit of gear. So it was nice seeing all that extra stuff. And there were some really cool kind of smaller makers there, maybe not even with stalls, just walking around with cool stuff. One person I saw was Lavendel Crans, who makes really cool Eurorack cases. Really cool 3D printed Eurorack cases.
Okay. I didn't get the chance to check
and stuff like that. So I really enjoy that community vibe. I can't wait until I go next year. Basically.
Yeah, I'm sure you would have an absolutely fantastic time, and we can certainly help you in your travel arrangements to Berlin, because I know that getting that part right is key.
Is it
so
tricky?
That you don't. Well, you just want to make sure you're on the right. You're in the place where you suddenly think, "Oh my, I have to do a train, a tram, and a train, and then a mile's walk." If you just want to jump on a train and then do the miles walk, you can't avoid the miles walk. Unfortunately, that's just the nature of the
sure.
But
I don't mind the walk.
Well, you say that, but after 8 hours on your feet, it does become a little tedious, particularly if you've travelled light and didn't bring 2 pairs of shoes, so your feet are always the same shape, which is a top tip if you're doing a lot of mileage. Joad, you were also viewing from afar. I'm imagining you didn't go because you were working, which probably means you didn't get a chance to watch a lot of the stuff, which is fair enough. I just wondered if there was anything that stood out for you that you were kind of think, oh, I'd like to have seen that.
I have to say that I've not watched much at all, enough to spot anything kind of out of the ordinary.
Fair enough.
I need to do my homework, but I was just too busy here.
Well, that's fine. I mean, we've all got to get on with stuff. So yeah, okay. Well, Robbie, you were there. I mean, You said earlier about the people. Was there any sort of equipment-wise that any real standouts? Just because everybody gets the opportunity to say that who went, I think as well.
Well, I mean, obviously that thing was incredible, and every time you walk past the Arturia stand, it was full of people, and they're all coming off, going, "Wow, this is incredible." Things that impressed me, other than that, I loved the First Love FM. I thought that was a really cool concept. We spoke.
Yeah, they won our innovation award actually.
Yeah, thoroughly deserved. And I'm really looking forward to what the finished product is going to be like. That was cool. Obviously, there was quite a bit of modular stuff, which mostly goes over my head because I'm not really into that. TO5 or TO5, or whatever you want to call it. Nice synth, 1,500 quid for the Oberheim sound. You know, it just doesn't appeal to me in that small form factor, but nice nonetheless.
Yeah, that won our polysynth because it was a new thing for the show.
Yeah.
So it was really hard to do awards. We've never done them there before. But now it's easy because the categories are so broad, whereas they're much more sort of confined at Super Booth. So you've got to be it's very difficult.
The red what was it called? Redshift.
The Redshift
buttons. Yeah, that was great. Really liked that. Liked what Paul's done with the PWM Mantis. It's now 4-voice paraphonic,
polyphonic,
which was I think polyphonic. Sorry, cool. And got to play with allegedly Giorgio Moroder's K250, which was in the same stand at the back because they had all the Kurzweil stuff there, and they had apparently Moroder's K250. Which sounds incredible even today. It's just stunning. But yeah, like you say, I think the best thing was just all the people and meeting all those people you know online and people that you don't know who just come up to you and say hi. And one of the guys on the UDO stand, wasn't George, it was somebody else, just grabbed me by the arm and said, "Oh, I love the stuff you do on the DX7s and stuff." And so it was just, just really nice, just such a vibe. And it is right what you say about travel. You need to find somewhere that's maybe not necessarily right close by, but within a short distance from an S-Bahn or a U-Bahn. But I like that little journey because you decompress at the end of the day. So it's nice.
You want to be far enough away so that you're in a groovy part of Berlin where stuff is going on, and you can get decent food, but close enough that it doesn't take you an hour to get there and back every day because nobody wants that commute. As your head says, we should do a hipster award. Funny you should say that. Actually, we didn't. We were joking about some of the awards that we should do, which obviously are not for publication. We thought about the worst breath because obviously we get quite intimate with our filming people. So sometimes we just go, we all come back and go, God, did you talk? Oh dear, and it's like obviously we would never. I'm not going to disclose that. That's because there are lots of funny awards that we thought we'd do, but it was hard enough doing 10 of them. But actually, I'm going to post a video today. I posted it to the Patreons yesterday, so it'll come out. I'll post it at the end of the show because it's ready to go, and it's just a summary of the awards that we did, which I'm sure there will be people
best
who
T-shirt award.
Best T-shirt award.
There was
we did think about best merch was one of the ones.
Yeah, best merch. Yeah. Do you know Salisbury synthesizers? Paul. Yeah, so he does these amazing. He was there, wasn't showing or anything. He was just there visiting, and he had the most incredible T-shirt. And I won't mention it on the show. You're going to have to go and find it. But it was just hilarious. And so I reckon you should sort of go around and do a best T-shirt award.
We have so many plans of what to do and how much extra content we're going to film. And honestly, unfortunately, Andy couldn't make it at the last minute, and he was going to sort of take care of some of that. But we were a man down, and we were while it wasn't, we've worked harder where it's been too hard, and you're just completely done in. We were able to sort of get through it and still come up with enough content to be able to make it viable. So, I mean, well done to the team because they did a great job. And also, just the preparation is, we start preparing like several months before.
Yeah.
And we do it regularly. It's not like each show has its own challenges, but it all works. Okay. I was going to get on to some actual topics as well, wasn't I? Okay. I don't even know if this is going to work now because it may or may not. Let's try if this works. This is... Yes, International Drone Day was on Saturday. This is a sort of public service announcement from Benj, who spotted it, and it was posted as part of our news coverage. But yeah, International Drone Day was last Saturday. It's kind of a worldwide thing where people can post live streams and have events. If you look on the event site, there's so much stuff. I think it gets there in the end, but this is obviously a drone. Benj is really rocking the 80s visuals. You should be collaborating with Paulie, I think. International Day, yeah. There's one at the Gulbenkian Theatre, Canterbury, but there were a whole bunch of other ones. In fact, was there? There was, yeah. There's a website here which just has what is Drone Day, why do we drone? And I mean, my initial thing was to make a gag out of it and go, why just a day? Surely it should be a week, really, because then that would be fitting, because it would last as long as drones generally do. But yeah, you could never beat a drone. It goes back to what I was saying, Yoad, about not wanting to program drums. I think and I think maybe I'm destined for just being once a year performer for International Drone Day, and that's probably going to be it. But it's interesting how drone has become, used to be such a specialist. It was almost like a really specialist form of music. Now it's, listening to some of those examples, it's actually, it just sounds like ambient to me. There's no real kind of all that much of a difference. I don't know whether any of you have considered participating. Do you think, Yoad, you could? I mean, your skills lie in pop mixing and arrangements, as well as many other things. Do you find that you don't have the patience to let things evolve too much over time, because you constantly go, something must to happen now? I need to have something happen, because that's what I always used to get when I was doing mixes, and they said, we want a club mix, and I go, but it's been 32 bars. I can't leave it that long. It has to be 8 bars before something happens. I don't know whether you suffer from the same level of impatience that I do.
At the same time, once you get into that kind of rhythm or lack of it, then you just kind of float. And I do love synths and kind of, it's kind of very just, slow sweeps and stuff. It's very soothing and but you're right, because I usually don't. It's like meditation. I just don't have the headspace for it. You know what I mean? I know it's good,
but I haven't got time.
But I have a million other things in my head and in my channels or in whatever, that it's just one of those things that I don't really get to.
It's funny. It's like the antithesis, isn't it? I mean, they say now that you've got to basically grab the user's attention if you're making like a pop record or something for commercial consumption within the first kind of 10 seconds or something. 7 seconds, yeah. So I mean, that rules out pretty much an entire genre of music right there. But I wonder, sometimes drone is kind of, is it not more for the performer than perhaps for the listener? I don't know. What do you think?
So drone is a kind of genre that it's already been taken to its most logical extreme. So I don't think I could actually write anything that competed with the greats in the category. And sort of, if we look at the sort of the reasoning behind it, John Cage's As Slow As Possible, which is a pipe organ piece, which has currently been going on for 22 years.
That could be considered drone.
Definitely, because obviously lots of the notes are really, really slow. In fact, I believe it's the piece starts with a rest. And I believe it was 2 years before they played in single note. So I'm like, this has already been like topped. I can't compete with this. 2 years before you play the first note. So there we go.
Well, it sounds like English builders. They also start with the rest.
Yes, indeed. So a cup of tea probably, and a sit down. So yeah, it's a kind of I know I'm taking the mick here a little bit, but I do enjoy it when composers, especially composers who are renowned in the academic world, are clearly taking the mick.
Yeah, I think it just sounds like they're having a laugh.
The audience. They're having a laugh, I think. At least part of it is having a laugh. What can I get these chumps to perform next?
Yeah, I suppose so. So yeah, I think
maybe it's completely serious. Maybe I've just offended a massive amount of people. No, I don't
think so. I think people sometimes it's done for love. Yeah, you've now got 2 contenders for the show title, Like a Factory of Noise and Sounds Like English Builders. I think are both pretty strong.
Sounds like English Bingers.
Pretty strong candidates.
Well, I don't want to sound offensive or anything like that. So maybe go with the first one.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yoad hates English in the newspapers.
Yeah, Robbie, I guess you'd have. I mean, the Polybrute 12 is possibly one of the most, I suppose, most of the likely candidates to be a drone machine. I mean, particularly with the Duo. Yeah, I mean, it's I'm surprised you haven't just got a key held down.
Well, yeah, I was going to actually take part in International Drone Day, but the wife was busy, so I couldn't.
Hey.
However,
easy.
I do like a nice drone. There's a guy that does a channel. He's got a little channel on Saturday mornings on YouTube. His name is Andy. He goes by the name of Synchrotron. And he does this thing like every Saturday morning between 10 and 12. He'll set up a patch on his modular, and it's a drone, and it's lovely, and kind of washes over you. And then he does the thing that keeps me interested. Is he gets a guitar with sometimes an EBO, and he just starts noodling on top of it, and then all of a sudden that becomes a lot more engaging. But as others have said, I need something to happen. I need give me a key change, even just some kind of thing.
Get off the stool.
Yeah. Otherwise, I'm there for 10 minutes and nothing has really changed. But I do like I do like a nice kind of ambient bed, but I like something to be put on top of it that will keep me interested. So yeah, it's.
Well, I think you just described the first 4 minutes of Wish You Were Here. Like a big drone and someone noodling, some guitar noodling.
Yeah,
that's true. I mean, one could argue that that's possibly the first
one,
extremely commercial, certainly ambient album that was where ambience was the thing, and there was a lot of music concrete in there, wasn't there? Because they had sound effects and all sorts of kind of tape loop stuff, and there was, so I suppose that's a
I like,
fair
point. Eno's stuff is great, and particularly the Apollo stuff. But there is, even though it's kind of this kind of drone stuff, there's cycling stuff in there that keeps you engaged, and they just had a little change, and there's another little, and it's still kind of a drone thing going on, but it's just more interesting, more engaging. And
you mean there's actual music in there, Robbie?
Yeah, all right, yeah, okay, you said it, not me.
I tell you what, someone who bridges the gap very well, I think, is Alessandro Cortini. There's some great albums that he's done. Certainly, he did some limitation albums where it was just him, where it was like there was a whole album that he just did in hotel rooms on tour with a tiny little system and a 4-track and something, and I love that, and that's quite drone-like. But again, he's got a very strong sense of actually quite pop melodic structure. So you do get. He's got a lot of isms, his chord changes, and you can tell it's him as soon as you hear it. Go, that's got to be, but I don't know what they are because I don't profess to, but I'm sure others could tell. But yeah, interesting. I think that's a very good point. Well, before I drone on anymore, I think I have to bring in a message. Do you see what I did there? Bring in a message from our friends over at Native Instruments. Oh, and I'll turn the sound up. Yeah, Guitar Rig Pro, your new inspiration suite. Filled with new amps, effects and pedals, it'll help spark your creativity and shape your sound. Guitar Rig 7 is also available as part of Music Production Suite 6, and you can save 10% with this code SONIC10 at checkout at native-instruments.com. That's the code SONIC10 at native-instruments.com. And remember, you don't have to just use it on guitars. It sounds great on synths and all kinds of other stuff as well. Lots of people just use it to build effects chains for all sorts of processing. We thank them very much for their support. Okay, let's see what we're going to go to next.
One of my favorite ads, I have to say, this one. It looks amazing. I love this ad.
Do you? Yeah, it's a great piece of music as well. I think it really does. Yeah, they've done a great job on it. Well, we could have a quick one. Let's see. Endless FM shuts down. That's a sad news, but I think it's actually quite key. So Endless announced that they're shutting down doors at the end of this month, actually, with only a week's notice, really, which is extremely sad. And I think Tim has been a little unwell, but nonetheless, it's basically get your music out of there. You've got till essentially, till tomorrow or till the next day to get your stuff out of there. And it was such a sort of promising idea, and just for some reason just wouldn't work. I mean, I think I think they'd started clubs. They did the last thing I shot was with the arcade at NAMM. There was also so you could $10 a month to get jamming, and it was such a when demonstrated, it was such a compelling thing. But what's interesting is I don't know how people can decommodify music, because essentially if you could pay $10 a month to Spotify and you could pay $10 a month to Endless, but it seems like people just aren't prepared to collaborate that openly. We've talked about this before, I think, where people have a real insecurity about sort of anonymous jamming. I mean, it's a bit like going to a party where you don't know anybody except you're singing or you're doing something which is actually bearing more of you than you would perhaps do if you were just making small talk. It's a very strange dynamic, and I wonder if that's possibly it's not that the product was bad or anything. It's just that people aren't confident enough in such large numbers to do that sort of thing. I don't know. I mean, Robbie, I don't know how much you jam with other people, or whether you kind of limit your stuff to your own room, or how you feel about that. But I mean, it is sad. I mean, Tim XR is a very talented guy, so I'm sure he'll pop up again with something else, because he's just a great force of nature. Yeah. But it's an interesting kind of question to ask, I suppose.
Yeah, it's always sad when something innovative comes along and then sadly, sort of falls away for whatever reason it might be. And I don't know the ins and outs of why Tim has drawn this to an end, whether it's just lack of people signing up and paying for it, or what, maybe it's just his ill health. I don't know. But no, collaboration. I mean, it's this kind of thing that's always out of our grasp, isn't it? In the modern age of online collaboration, because of the inherent latency that you just get with the internet connection. And there are tools out there that try to compensate for that. And this was one. There's a free one that's out there called Jamtabber that I've experimented with, and you need to be a little bit, it's a bit like it's kind of Reaper. It has a bit of a steep learning curve, but once you've sussed it, I've heard some jams on there. There was one I listened to as part of International Drone Day, which had about 6 people on it. And it sounded great, and everything was in time, and there was drum loops and everything going on, and everything was synchronized. And it does some sort of latency thing so that everybody hears something about 8 beats or bars behind everybody else, and it kind of then syncs it all up for an output. And it works really well, but it does, it takes a lot of stuff doing it. As far as Endless is concerned, I never really got into the whole app thing, but when I think it was you showed that arcade machine, I thought, wow, now that's cool, because you can have people wherever jamming on this brilliant big screen arcade system, and that I'd love to have seen one of those and had to go, but never did. But yeah, I mean, it's sad when especially a thing that draws a community together sadly passes away, and maybe something will come back in its place, I don't know, but fingers crossed.
Well, hopefully they might be able to keep the Discord or the forums going, and so that the community, because I think that's what a lot of people value in that sort of scenario. I don't know, Yoad, I mean, you collaborate on songwriting and whatnot. I don't know, you've played live. I don't know whether jamming is a thing. I mean, because for some people it's a really powerful source of endorphins and joy, which is not somewhere that we don't get a lot of that in our lives, from everyday existence. So music can bring that. So therefore, you'd hope that it would be quite an addictive thing and people would enjoy it. But perhaps it's just not the case. Perhaps our optimism is unfounded, perhaps.
Yeah, I mean, I love jamming, and I do it occasionally with my mates, not as often as any of us would like, because of other commitments and things like that. But it's great when it does happen. But I think that collaborative music making, although it's always been kind of the holy grail, it never actually caught on. And I'm sure that there will be a time when it will. And everyone is trying to make it happen. So Evid tried that years ago, and Steinberg tried that, and there are a lot of other collaborative kind of platforms, and they have been. But for some reason, and I'm not sure if it's just the technical kind of limitations, there's something about it that just for some reason doesn't work. So I work a lot. 90% of my work is done remotely, but it's offline. So people send me files and I send mixes or even productions or whatever, or tracks, and I was involved in the creation of Listen To by Audio Movers. And so this is something that kind of helps and I'm now involved with the Ginger Audio, and we do something similar, but with video and stuff. So it's kind of halfway there, but still the actual audio, you just play it back and you can talk. And with the Ginger Audio, we even have like auto ducking. So when the transport is playing, it can detect whether your DAW is playing, so it mutes the mics for everyone, so you don't have the problem of, so you don't have to have headphones on and things like that. But in terms of actually playing with other people at the same time, for some reason, it's just not happening. And I'm not sure whether the problem is technical. Like you said, maybe there's something too exposing or too, well, I mean, playing with strangers is one thing, but playing with people you work with, but I mean, it's easy enough to just record your part and send it over offline, and you import it to your session, and that's done.
I think there's so much when you're in a room playing with somebody. There's so much non-verbal communication. There's sort of eye move. There's lots of body language presumably involved. Encouraging sort of signs. Yes, that's good. Do more of that. You don't necessarily know that until the loop's finished and it comes round again. So you don't get that. But what's bizarre about it is people are perfectly prepared to write all kinds of nonsense on the internet in real time towards each other. Yet they're not prepared to jam. There's obviously some sort of disparity in the way it works. I don't know. Paulie, you do music stuff and you know how the power of it. So does it have to be in person, do you think, to kind of achieve maximum effectivity? It seems like it must.
Yeah, I'm wondering if this, because was it 2017 when it launched, Endless?
Yes, I believe it was 2017, 2016, yeah.
Do you think that maybe the pandemic gave it a somewhat unnatural boost? As people kind of flocked to the internet for their social, their jamming and their social back and forth. And then maybe...
I'm sure they did, yeah.
Once we were free again, maybe that unnatural... kind of, and maybe they mistook that for kind of growth, and then they invested in it. I'm just speculating, but it could have been something like that. It's never really been on my radar that much, simply because it's one of those things where I don't think it's anywhere near as good online as it is in person. It's just a whole other different thing when you're in a room with someone just jamming, And I haven't. Yeah,
I wonder. I wonder because
I haven't done it.
Well, I think I wonder because when you're jamming when you're playing with someone in real time, there's a thing that happens that is microseconds, and the feel, the call and response, the whatever, and that is something that is quite. I mean, you're never going to be able to replicate that over the sort of distance because there's going to be latency. Sure. So it's a different experience. So you don't get, maybe it's, you will get lots of happy accidents, but maybe it's not quite the same thing. Yes. And maybe it's a bit like, having the frame rate wrong when you're experiencing VR because your brain is saying, gosh, this amazing thing, whereas the lizard part of your brain going, there's something really wrong here, and you start to feel sick, so there's a sort of barrier in just the general process of this that makes it harder to achieve anything. But people game online together all the time, don't they? And what's the difference? It's really curious.
The collaborativeness, isn't it?
the difference is latency and rhythm, because rhythm for, in most genres of music is key. And because of the latency, you need special tools to help you play in time, and then that can then put in inherent problems. So we all know Kent Spong. I hope he doesn't mind me sort of talking about this publicly, but Kent doesn't go out because he's got agoraphobia, and so he doesn't get to play with many people, only visitors really. So he likes to sort of do these little YouTube events, maybe once or twice a week, and sometimes during those, we'll just fall into just messing around with some instruments, and then somebody will just join in, and there is no kind of rhythm going on. Maybe there's an arpeggiator going in the background somewhere, but most of it is very ambient and flowing. We kind of go back to this whole kind of ambiently drone type of thing, and we're all playing in a particular key, and we don't have that connection as you have in a room with musicians, which is something I miss terribly. But you do still have that little kind of psychic connection with someone. I know what Kent does. I know what he likes. I know what the kind of chord progressions he favors. So I'll try and do something along those lines, and he'll respond to that. So there is still a kind of a latency and delay in there, but it really works kind of well. And we just have a lot of fun, and we can go on for 20, 30 minutes just messing around with this stuff. And this is just on YouTube using StreamYard as a thing to bring us all together in one place. And as soon as you introduce a drum loop, it's all going to fall apart, because everyone's going to be playing to something that's slightly different timing. But yeah, I think it's interesting. But yeah, I think what Paulie said there was very apt, and the fact that the pandemic might have given this a false kind of peak, and then once everybody could just go out and play again, maybe it kind of fell away.
I think there's an element of that. I mean, I do know that there's Tim posted on his blog that he'd been suffering from some health issues, which I think would have probably affected his a bit, because he's the energy behind that he puts into any of the projects he works. He's an incredibly energetic person, so maybe that was he just didn't have the bandwidth to kind of give it what it needed, and that would be very sad. In fact, Gaz is in the chat room and has mentioned something along those lines, but we don't have any details, and so I'm not going to speculate as to the exact nature of it. But I mean, I suppose the bottom line is it's sad that it hasn't got bigger, and sad that these things that this doesn't somehow things that everyone will, that whenever one is launched, there's always people that will do it. There's the Elk system that people will use these, and for some people it really works, and there are ways that you can plug into a DAW and you have bar counters and it syncs up the latency. All of that kind of definitely works, but it's less reactive and more about, I'm going to put my idea into your already existing thing. Because it's easy for me, because there's nothing more magic. I mean, and you've probably seen this before yourself as well, Yoad, when you're in the studio, somebody comes in to play a session and they play something and everybody just goes, oh my God, what happened there? That was so amazing. And nobody really knows what happened or how it happened. It just did. And if there was an issue with the take or whatever, it's never going to happen the same way again, and those are the moments, those are things that are so timing critical and so specific to the moment. I mean, they're beautiful when they happen, but it's a rarity. I suppose that's.
At the same time, in a similar way that we learn to communicate via texts or whatever, or video calls or emails, and we kind of found new ways of overcoming the differences between that and face-to-face conversation. So I think that with music, we will find a way, and there will be collaborative kind of ways to create music remotely, or create or whatever. So one of these attempts will succeed, and then it will be something that everyone does. It just hasn't happened yet. That's my view.
There's probably a difference between whether it's using sort of digital or software-based instruments or real-time physical instruments, because there's going to be a different process, I guess, for both of those things. So, I mean, that'll make a difference. Anyway, I mean, we wish Tim all the best, and obviously you can still join up, which means you still get access to the Discord and the community. There's probably a load of really cool people there that are worth hanging out with, and if you're not, then there are tools available to get your jams and your loops out of the servers. So if you pay attention, you'll be able to get everything that you've put in there. And I mean, obviously, there's some people who are going to be absolutely bereft who do this all the time, and that's going to be sad, So we do wish everybody the best, because it can be quite traumatic when you lose these things. Right. Oh, it's got Synth Samurai in the chat room. Nice to see him there. Let's have a look. I think we're probably. I'm gonna bring things to an end here and save a couple of topics, because we're heading towards the summer, and God knows it gets very bereft. I will say we do have Stimming has given us a commitment to be on the show at some point. Martin Stimming is the Berlin-based, and so if you've got any questions for Stimming, just leave them in the comments for this or any future episodes. If you start the question with QQ, it'll go into our question system, which I know we don't use very often, but it still runs. So if you stick it in there, then we'll be able to build up a list, and likewise we'll put posts on various posts, so we'll have some questions for them. It's going to be in a week or two. We've got to nail the final dates, but he's definitely interested in doing it. But I want to thank you, Robbie, very much for coming on. I imagine the pull of the 12 is calling you at the moment. All the time you're not in front of it, you must be sort of thinking, I need to get back to that, and just
it's one of those keyboards that you just turn this on and start playing and start programming and messing around with it. It really is. It's very cool. So yeah, it does that.
Did you have help getting out of the box?
Kind of, yeah. I had to kind of lift it, and then they had to sort of pull the box away. But it's quite. It was 23 kilos, I think.
Yeah, quite a lot.
Which is a lot. But can I just do a quick plug for our show on Friday?
Of course. Yes.
We're doing. So the Bob Moog Foundation have another raffle that's going on, and they've just started it. You can win a 2022 Mini Moog Model D as part of that raffle. Tickets start at like $20 a ticket, and it's signed by the one and only Jordan Rudess, and Jordan's coming on our show this Friday to talk all about it. So we're super excited. Yeah,
nice.
So we're super excited. So yeah,
that's
say
Friday,
hi from me. UK.
Friday 7, and that's on Pro Synth Network, yes?
Pro Synth Network, yeah. I think, Wagoo's just posted a link. Thanks, mate. Appreciate that.
Excellent. That's good. So
building up for that.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like a great show. Yeah, say hi. I've had various joining points with Jordan over the years. We always have a competition when we go to NAMM is who can spot Jordan first, because he's always there and sort of omnipresent, and it's usually not me that wins, but then my eyesight's failing. Yoad, I'm guessing you're probably going to be getting back to alt-tabbing into some Atmos mix or something or other that you've got on the go, right?
Yeah, I'm actually working on some guitar related stuff for STL Tones at the moment. Very exciting. So I'm gonna get back to that.
Get back to some shredding.
Some gear that is out of the frame that you can't see, luckily.
Oh, yeah. No, I haven't spotted it. No, that's fine. Well, lovely to have you, Yoad. Always a pleasure. Thanks very much for coming on the show. And of course, Paulie, your gig's coming up quite soon, isn't it? It's so.
It is.
Give that a plug.
29th of June in Nottingham. A place called, I think it's called Saltbox Bar. And yeah, I'm going to have my new CD there. So pop down if you want to grab a copy. And if you are not in the UK, please just get in touch with me on Facebook or YouTube or wherever to get yourself a copy. Because, I've only got 100 copies so far, and I might do another run if enough people are interested.
I'm sure.
We'll see. I didn't want to end up with a warehouse full of 1,000 CDs.
No, it's like the Paulie equivalent of a shed full of D-beams. It's the
that's it. Yeah. I didn't want a shed full of D-beams.
No, who does?
So there we go.
Somebody's got them somewhere. They haven't used them all up yet. I can mark my words. Anyway,
No.
folks, thank you very, very much for joining us. Thank you, everybody in the chat room. Thanks to our sponsors. Thanks, everybody else. And thanks, Wagyu, for heroically posting the links in. I don't know what happened there. It worked last week, and it didn't work this week. So something to do with my Python version, and I haven't had time to look at it, but we'll get to that. All right, well, that's it for the Sonic Talk 802. We'll see you next week. Thank you very much. That's the end of business. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye now.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.